Hello everybody, James here. Thank you so much for tuning in to just my second YouTube video. Hopefully this one's a lot better than my first because it'll be sideways, and also there's going to be pictures this time. So now you won't just have to watch me awkwardly talking to a camera for as long as I can stand to hear the sound of my own voice. I hope you stick around because today we're going to be discussing Chip Zdarsky's complicated exploration of superhero morality in Daredevil number 4, which is written by Chip Zdarsky with art by Checchetto. And if you haven't seen Checchetto's art in these books before, I'll throw up a couple pictures. It's phenomenal. He worked on Punisher before hopping over to Daredevil, and his grittier line work is superbly perfect for these books, and I hope he stays on them until the end of time. But onto the actual series, I am going to spoil Chip Zdarsky's Daredevil series, which has some very plot-heavy elements. So if you haven't read them, you should because they're fantastic, and then come back and watch my video. Or never watch my video. I'm not the boss of you. So I think that the best place to start is in the beginning. And before Daredevil number 1 took off, Daredevil had been killed and then brought back to life in a series of miniseries. And so when we get to Daredevil number 1, he's not himself. He's on pills and he's on alcohol to try to really be able to force himself to go out as Daredevil, which he views as something God is making him do because he has these powers. So he thinks that because God gave him these powers, he has to use them for good, and he has to use them to help people all the time. But because he's not in fighting shape, he actually ends up killing a person at the end of Daredevil number 1. And in this issue, he really comes to terms with the fact that he really did do that. But this actually sets off a manhunt for Daredevil by the NYPD. They end up capturing him at the end of issue number 3. And then right at the beginning of issue number 4, he's sprung by none other than the Punisher. And Chip Zdarsky uses the Punisher and the Punisher's philosophy as an excuse to have a debate, basically, between Daredevil and the Punisher, between whether or not killing the people that they're trying to stop each and every day is correct. And I love this so much that I'm actually making a whole video about it. It's a really good, complicated exploration of the morality of being a superhero, of being a vigilante, and telling yourself and everyone around you that you're above the law, that you're better than them, and you're going to go punch some people because you believe that that's right. So should being a vigilante stop at just punching people? That's what Chip Zdarsky wants to explore here. And he also wants to explore why doesn't Daredevil just go off and kill everybody? He even, of course, brings up the fact that he would be amazing at it if he wanted to. Daredevil would be one of the best serial killers of all time. He even calls Frank Castle a demon, but he's the devil. And he knows he'd be better than him at it, but he's terrified of it. And for good reason. We actually discuss a lot of why vigilantes, and Daredevil in particular, shouldn't kill in this issue. And it's something interesting because comics very rarely kind of brush up against this realism. And one of the biggest questions that obviously the Batman has with Joker is, why doesn't Batman just kill Joker? Why does he keep putting him away only for him to escape again later? And obviously Batman has his code and Daredevil has his code. And I think that killing somebody just down the line invalidates all the hard work you've done in the beginning. And Daredevil kind of touches on that too in this. But the other thing you have to remember is that these events are happening over the course of 90-something years for Batman and 50 for Daredevil. So basically you have to reconcile the fact that they've been running this long with also knowing that this is an ongoing comic we're only in issue number 4 of. So you can't think of it like Daredevil's been around for 50 years, 60 years, and he's not killed for 50 or 60 years. In his mind, it's been maybe 5 or 6 years that all these events have taken place. And with Batman, I don't know how DC does their sliding time scale, if at all. So that's one of the more interesting elements explored in this issue. But then we get into the actual meat and bones of the discussion. And we see how Daredevil and Punisher view what they're doing. Because they have the same goal, essentially. Daredevil and Punisher, when they see a crime happening, want to stop it. Daredevil punches the person until they're unconscious or until he's able to take them to jail. And the Punisher, instead of doing that, kills them. But they're both just trying to remove somebody who's committing a crime so that they can't hurt the person or the business or whatever that they're hurting right now. So Daredevil talks about the fact that though they fight these street thugs who are doing bad things, Daredevil doesn't believe that they're bad people. And I think that has to do a lot with his faith and also his time at being a lawyer. Daredevil believes in redemption, and we see later that the Punisher doesn't. But Daredevil says to the Punisher that these people, they're doing things maybe because not of who they are, maybe they're not just evil people, but because society is pushing them to do these things, and they may have undiagnosed mental health problems, and they can be helped and they can be saved. And the Punisher, of course, looks at it, like he says, as a math problem. And the Punisher looks and says, if I kill that person, they can't hurt anybody else ever again. Not only am I saving the person I'm saving right then, I'm also saving all the potential victims that this person would have had and would have like created if I hadn't killed them. So that's a really interesting discussion, and I tend to fall on Daredevil's side because I'm not a monster, despite what some people would have you believe. So I think that Daredevil is correct in this, and I love that Chip Zdarsky essentially just has Daredevil beat the hell out of the Punisher and embarrass him. But one of the more interesting facts of this is that the Punisher wants Daredevil to get on his side. He wants help. And he knows that Daredevil would be better than him, and Daredevil proves it. But he wants help in his crusade because he thinks that Daredevil's a phony, and he's only taken these half measures in removing people, but never actually fixing the problem. And that's a really interesting discussion. And again, it's not exactly one that you can really solve in an ongoing superhero comic where there needs to be more and more people to fight. But I love that at the very least, Chip Zdarsky brushed up against it and said, are you really solving anything if you're only solving things temporarily? The Punisher, of course, employs a permanent solution, but there's so many different reasons why you shouldn't be doing that, and I shouldn't have to explain to you why you shouldn't kill people. But number one, of course, is Daredevil. What Daredevil says is redemption, and also maybe it's not their fault. So I just love that Chip Zdarsky even bothered to go and to bring this realism into these superhero ongoing comics, and I think that the whole issue is really worth a read. And I loved it a lot, and I hope we get more comics like this in the future. So let me know what you think. Is Daredevil right? He better be. You can't tell me the Punisher's right. He is wrong. He's a bad dude. I didn't even watch the second season of the Punisher series because I was like, I don't want to watch you just murder a bunch of dudes and be like, I'm a great guy. So, whatever. But yeah, let me know what you think of the issue and also this Daredevil series as a whole. Thanks.